It's been called an Eden, a supremely blessed island paradise.
This is what I sort of always imagined that Madagascar was all like, was just this explosion of greenery. It's like a firework display.
Isolated in the Indian Ocean for millions of years, almost all of the plants and animals here are unique. And this is the iconic pin-up for the island's animal magic.
Oh, you're a nice fella. Yeah. Hello.
Wide-eyed, docile, hugely attractive lemurs. For years, Madagascar and lemurs have exerted a huge pull on me.
It looks nice being a lemur.
Yeah. Doesn't it? But today, these animals are in retreat. The forests where they once thrived are almost all gone. Lemurs are hunted and eaten.
They're going to come through this noose.
Entire species have vanished, and soon others may follow. I want to try and find out why, and more importantly, if there's anything anyone can do to try and stop this.
Now we have planted 1 million trees.
There we go, there's our little forest.
Because if the lemur can't be saved, then what hope is there for Madagascar's other unique wildlife?
Once they disappear from this place, they disappear forever.
Madagascar is home to thousands of species of animals and plants found nowhere else on Earth. More than 10,000 unique trees and flowers, 300 types of bird, and 260 breeds of reptile. The island broke from mainland Africa about 140 million years ago, allowing all this flora and fauna to develop in splendid isolation. But no one's quite sure how the lemurs got here. The current thinking is that they arrived from Africa around 60 million years ago on rafts of matted vegetation. All the major predators missed the boat, and lemurs were able to evolve into over 100 different species to best make use of abundant sources of food. Lemurs range in size from just over an ounce to over 20 pounds. But the problem started when the first human settlers arrived, only 2,000 years ago, coming across the Indian Ocean by boat. Unused to predators, lemurs were easy prey. The biggest were prized for meat. 17 species are already extinct. We know from fossils that one weighed up to 400 pounds and was the size of a silverbacked gorilla. The biggest one left alive today is the wondrous Indri, and that's the one I most want to see. I'm heading to a popular place for lemur spotting on the edge of the eastern rainforest, 80 miles from the capital, Antananarive, and close to the small town of Andasi Bay. Standing over 2 feet tall and weighing nearly 2 stone, it's been described as looking like a small child in a panda suit.
So from here, we are already in the territory of the Indri. So we go straight on this way, then we're turning left.
But first, my local guide, Justin Claude, thinks he's heard some brown lemurs nearby.
There are 2 of them still playing on a branch, just straight.
Oh, yeah.
2 of them.
These are common brown?
Yeah.
Oh, they're nice.
Common brown.
These are my first lemurs.
Yeah. They're still grooming together. So you see.
And they're not bothered by us.
No?
No? busy baby. It looks nice being a lemur.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Neither of those are males, are they, the adults?
1 male and 1 female, just here. Because the lemur, they are polygamous species.
Oh, right.
So it means they can stay many females for 1 male.
This could be like mum and dad and their baby.
Yeah, in one group. Wow. That is Indri. That is the communication codes of the Indri.
The term lemur was coined by early primatologists, as the calls of some species, especially the Indri, were reminiscent of lemures, ghosts or spirits of the dead in Roman mythology.
They're chatty, aren't they? Yeah.
That's call we can hear about 2 kilometers distance.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
And their mating call is very...
Yes, the mating call is like...
Stop doing that.
Like that.
Very different.
Yeah.
That was a frog.
We do not know which species.
No, hitherto unknown.
We follow the sound of the Indri's call, and it's not long before Justin Clode spots one.
It is sitting high up on this tree.
Oh, yeah. Hello, mate. Yeah. Look at you. He's just stuffing his face with fruit. Go on, son.
The Indri is monogamous species. So it means one female for one male. And they're always staying out together during the life. So they breed, but not too many. Only one baby every 2 or 3 years.
How old are the children before they go off?
The behavior is really different. They leave home when they get about 5 or 7 years old.
Oh, it's as old as that. And they start their own family.
Yeah.
Do these guys get hunted for bushmeat?
It is forbidden to kill Indri or to eat the Indri. So if one of them kill the Indri, they will be die or they will become handicapped.
One of the reasons that the Indri has survived is because there is a taboo on hunting them. Life for most of the islanders, or Malagasy as they're known, is dominated by a complex web of fadi, or taboos.
So like my father, he tried to kill one Indri when he was young.
Did he?
Yeah. Then after, just on the way back to home, he have got a typhic. He has a problem with his teeth.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So taboos are taken very seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, that's lucky for him.
But not all lemurs are so lucky. Of the 100 or so known species that remain today, at least 5 of these are amongst the most endangered primates on Earth. Next, I'm hoping to see the rarest lemur of all. In recent years, the number of greater bamboo lemurs has dwindled to just 60, and they're feared to be perilously close to extinction. If I can see this lemur in its natural habitat, I'll be one of the very privileged few. In Andassi Bay, I'm meeting Tony King, who works for the British zoological charity, the Aspinall Foundation. He's made it his mission in life to try and save the greater bamboo lemur before it's too late. Tony's travelled up and down the country, searching its most remote corners in the hope of finding as yet undiscovered places where these lemurs might still exist. And his search has started to pay off. We're now on our way to one of the most important new sites that he's found, way off the beaten track. Once a colony of France, French is still the dominant European language.
So how many thousand is that?
It's 16,000 ADR, so it's about £5 for the two of us.
Southwest trains, watch out.
Although it's just 50 miles from Andassi Bay to Aniverano, the roads are appalling. The best way to get there is by one of the only trains that still run in the country, where few journeys are quick and the warning signs for wildlife are everywhere.
But look at that, that's a scar. That was still a tree still smoking.
In this part of eastern Madagascar, the primary cause of deforestation is slash and burn for agriculture.
90% of Madagascar's rainforest has already gone. Some of it cut down and illegally exported to make guitars and swanky furniture. But the vast majority of it burnt and cleared to make way for farmland to feed the island's fast-growing human population.
In my ignorance, I'd always sort of thought that deforestation and destruction of rainforests was by us bad Westerners making hardwood floors in Hampstead or something, and it hadn't struck me that that was such a large part of it.
Yeah. It's quite productive land down here. I mean, they also need to eat something and then need to sell something.
What would they plant on something that steep?
Well, they can try rice, but it doesn't really work.
Take your hand off my knee. But your big concern is for the bamboo lemurs.
They're very little known and very few populations have been found. Prior to us starting, there'd been 11 sites found in 20 years. It took us 6 months to find the first sign of anything. But after 6 months, then we found, I think, another 11 sites in a space of a year.
It's late in the afternoon by the time we arrive at the small town of Aniverano.
Nice cock.
Thank you. And this is kind of like the mayor's office right here as we arrive.
All right.
So basically we worked with a lot of local community associations. We did a lot of meetings. This is one of the posters that just basically says, you know, that we're interested in it and that we're all working together to try and protect it. The main way we worked originally was to have meetings. This is how we found in this region 5 major sites for greater bamboo lemurs.
Was it from one of these meetings that you hit on the site we're going to visit?
The owner of the site came to one of those meetings, and I guess he put his hand up and said, "Yeah, I've got some lemurs. They look a bit like that.
Yeah,
come and have a look."
It's getting dark, and we've missed our chance to see the lemurs today. We're going to have to try in the morning, but with so few of these endangered lemurs left and our time running out, we'll just have to hope that our luck is in. The island of Madagascar is the only place on Earth where lemurs exist in the wild. One of the rarest is the greater bamboo lemur that we're now hoping to see. In a small and remote town of Aniverano, we're meeting up with Paul Ranivusu. At a site on Paul's land, Tony King, who works for the Aspinall Foundation, has identified one of the most important new colonies of this critically endangered lemur. It takes over 2 hours to trek through the bush to Paul's lemur colony, so he's arranged a motorised boat called a pirogue to take us upriver.
Is it important to Mr. Paul because he's made sure that they're protected there, but is that a sort of pride in his rare lemurs?
Je ne savais pas avant que c'était des simus. Je sais que c'est des lémuriens et j'ai protégé comme les lémuriens, pas comme simus. Par amour pour les lémuriens, j'ai protégé.
Most of the sites Tony has found are difficult to access and are often on steep hills that have provided some natural protection for the lemurs.
We're just arriving in what we call the village, but it's really just 2 families. It's the 2 guardians of the site.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. The guide's going to go off and try and find the group. And Paul will stay with us and be in touch with the guide. And hopefully between us,
Great.
we'll find them.
I'm quietly confident. I don't know why. There'll be something, isn't there?
The bamboo lemurs here are restricted to a protected area about the size of 40 football pitches, and we spread out to look for them.
Can you see anything yet?
But it's already getting hot, and spotting these, some of the most elusive primates on Earth, isn't easy.
Should we head on a little bit further?
Oh, he's just there.
It's Paul who eventually spots one in the distance.
He's nice. He doesn't seem too bothered by us clumping around.
There's one walking along.
Oh, he knows we're here, doesn't he? He's looking at us.
Staring at us. So there it is. One of the world's rarest primates. And one of the most elusive as well. Very, very difficult to see.
He's very chilled.
If he gets sleepy enough, he'll be yawning again. Show us his teeth. Some really powerful jaws, because they're the only lemur capable of eating this large diameter bamboo that you see around us.
Bamboo contains cyanide, but these lemurs have developed a resistance to the poison. their daily dose of bamboo would be enough to kill a human.
So in the wet season, they eat the nice, young, fresh, sort of juicy shoots that come out of the ground. But in the dry season, they rip apart this hard outside of the big stems. It's remarkable. Some people have even studied the strength of their jaw power.
Have they?
Yeah.
The jawometer.
Yeah, on some kind of scale of very strong to remarkably strong, and these go even higher than that, I think. We only know of 400 or so individuals of this in the wild, and at least 30 of them live here in this small 75-acre site.
It's great, isn't it? All this fuss for this tiny little fella. Quite right, too.
Paul and Tony are clearly doing a great job protecting these very rare lemurs, but their survival isn't guaranteed.
What's the future of this set-aside site?
Au vu de ce que je trouve chez moi, les gens essaient de tuer les sinus. Mais c'est plus comme avant, on mangeait, on tuait. Maintenant, ça ne se fait plus. Donc je crois qu'il y a un message qui a été passé.
But in some parts of Madagascar, even within officially protected nature reserves, hunting is rife, even though it's banned. I want to find out why people are still hunting this endangered primate. I'm now on my way to the stunning Mashwala-Makira region, the largest remaining tract of rainforest in the country, covering an area of about 2,500 square miles, about the size of Devon. Christopher Holmes works for the Wildlife Conservation Society, who've been working to protect the forest here for over 20 years.
This is the largest bit of primary rainforest left in Madagascar.
Where we're going into is home to the largest concentration of Madagascar's biodiversity. Lemurs, birds, reptiles, plants. We're working very hard to protect what we have left.
The Makira forest is officially a protected area, but hunting within its borders still goes on despite having been outlawed since the 1960s. But grasping the issues here is challenging. How or why should we judge people who hunt for their food when they live in such poverty?
I've heard the expression hand to mouth, we've all heard it. Yeah. But quite literally, they're just farming to feed themselves.
It is hand to mouth, yeah. These villages are very isolated and very dependent upon their capacity to bring food to the table through farming.
They're also hunting lemurs for food, too, aren't they?
Hunting lemurs is by and large for subsistence. So the populations are hunting the lemurs for protein to put food on their table.
The Wildlife Conservation Society, in cooperation with the local communities here, carry out anti-poaching patrols in the forest.
Look at that. This is the Madagascar of my dreams. This is what I sort of always imagined all these years that Madagascar was all like, was just this explosion of greenery. There's things growing on things, aren't there? It's like a firework display.
Madagascar has 101 lemur species. Makira's forests is home to 22 of those species.
Wow.
It's the highest diversity of lemurs in any one forest in Madagascar.
Among those species are some of the rarest, such as silky siphakas and red-ruffed lemurs. If we're lucky, we might spot them, though this is a vast area. But then we get word that one of the anti-poaching patrols has just come across a snare.
This. Careful, don't touch it, or you'll likely have your hand caught in the noose. So what happens is the lemur comes down from one tree wanting to get to the other tree.
They'll just try and go through that.
They're going to go through that, okay? And you can see the way this trap works. It's all under tension with a simple wooden trigger. We'll come through this noose, and they're caught.
God.
By the neck, by the midsection, by a hind leg,
And
by a forelimb.
Will that be what kills them?
They will either die instantly if it's enough of a tension, or they will choke, or sometimes they'll be found alive, and then the hunter will come up with a machete and knock them on the head.
The hunter who set this snare might not be back for days. It's getting dark and we have to leave. But I'm now heading north from Makira to the small town of Betsik, where a group of hunters were recently caught red-handed. Conservationist Serge Rajabalin was closely involved in the operation.
Wanted to show you some of the pictures of people we arrested with the government and the police. It was a joint effort. Sometimes they can get 100, 150 lemurs per week. That's enormous, and we're trying to stop that. And right now we were able to arrest 6 people, and 2 got 5 years in prison.
And what are they, just dead? They're not dried or cooked or what are they? They look charred.
They cook them. So they go in the forest at night, and then they cook it during the night, and just before dawn, they take the route to bring them to the market.
No meat on them though, is there?
Yeah.
Nothing. Because you say it's not people of this community that are doing it.
No. This guy is migrants from another city who decide to go into the forest.
Madagascar is one of the poorest countries in the world, with most of its 22 million people living on less than £1 a day. Wild dreams of a gold rush have led some of them here, where their diet is supplemented by bushmeat. 2 years ago, there was a military coup in Madagascar. The government that seized power are not recognised by the outside world, and international aid has been cut. Poverty and hunger are everywhere.
So what have we got here?
What they're looking for is a stone, but usually what they get is gold sand. So they really have to look to find a very rare sand.
They're tiny, tiny bits of gold.
Tiny bits of gold.
So this isn't a legal operation?
It's complicated, but it's completely illegal because they cannot dig. If you dig, you need to have a permit. But they don't have a permit to do that.
Panning for gold in the riverbed is legal, but any kind of underground mining requires a special license.
It's not just the digging up of the earth that invades the habitat of the lemurs, is it?
No. If you look at the miners here, about 80% of them are not coming from the areas.
Right.
They have different taboos. For example, in some cases of the people comes here, they don't eat lemurs. It's forbidden to go in some part of the forest. But people come from the other areas, they don't care. They want to eat meat, so they're going to eat lemurs.
There are taboos on hunting certain lemurs in some regions, but gold-seeking outsiders often ignore or are unaware of them. It's that or starve.
But it's an accepted thing,
right,
because people are so poor. And it's not the gold rush where you're going to find lots of nuggets. It's at the end of the day, we're still talking about people who are going to make $2 to $3 a day. They're not looking for fortunes.
It's wrong to be critical of people living in such desperately poor circumstances hunting to put meat on their tables. But how do we square that with the needs of wildlife? Thankfully, there are people who think they have some of the answers. I'm now travelling into the heartland of this magnificent country, to one of its biggest food-growing regions, to find out what can be done. If I'm lucky, I might also get to see one of the most extraordinary lemurs while I'm there. On the island of Madagascar, it's really hard to get the balance between man's need for food and protecting the wildlife. 100 miles from the capital, Antananarive, lies Lac Alaotra, the island's biggest lake, where most of its vital rice crop is grown. It's also the last refuge of the shy and diminutive gentle reed lemur, the only lemur adapted to living in wetland areas. The tradition of rice growing in Madagascar was brought by the first settlers, who came not from Africa, but from Southeast Asia, and it's become the country's staple food. But the island's rapidly growing population demands more and more rice, which means marshes get burnt and cleared for cultivation, and that's bad news for the lemurs. It's a situation that's got worse since the political crisis in 2009 and the breakdown of law and order. For the last 15 years, the British-based Durrell organisation has been battling to protect this wetland and the wildlife that depend on it for their survival. Richard Lewis works for Durrell alongside his colleague Dr. Jonah Razin-Baraf.
You can really clearly see that it's just a huge basin, can't you? This is a great spot to look at it from.
This is the southwest corner of the lake. So basically most of the gentle lemurs that exist on planet Earth are in that marsh there that you can see before you.
And the burning that we see everywhere, what's that? That's getting rid of the marsh.
Yeah, that's people trying to convert some of the marshes for rice growing. This is the driest time of the year. It's a tinderbox at the moment.
Is it? Mm. But they need to burn that to grow the rice?
That's a big question. What you're seeing here, most of this burning is being done by a few rich individuals who are paying a group of people to burn on their behalf. These are a few very rich people who see, great, I can double my land holdings overnight if I've got a box of matches and a few people with spades.
In countries like Indonesia, farmers can get 10 times more rice from their land. If that can be replicated here, there'll be more rice and more room for gentle lemurs, if it works.
What's your plan for the future?
People need first to understand that we need to save the marsh because we need to have rice field because Malagasy people eat 3 times a day rice. So in the future you want to save the biodiversity, the unique biodiversity of Alot, which is the lemurs.
Yes.
But while by helping people, but it has to be balanced wisely.
Loads of the families here have 10 or more children, and Madagascar's population of over 20 million is growing fast. With so many new mouths to feed, more and more pressure is being put on limited food resources. Starting out with just one village, Durrell have gradually persuaded all 24 villages around La Calaotra that the protection of the marshes on which their future survival depends matters almost as much as putting food on the table. It's reassuring to see what Durrell are doing here, but everywhere I turn, the island seems to be under stress. Once, fish were an important part of people's diet, but now they're in serious decline. If they go, more rice will have to be grown on the marshland, and that'll make the lemur's habitat even smaller.
2 problems here. A few small fish, so basically, this is a fisherman's catch. What we're witnessing is the fish populations crashing in the lake from overfishing.
Crashing like really fast.
Yeah.
The other problem here is a legacy of history. 40 years ago, Madagascar, like many African countries, was a socialist one-party state and received aid from communist countries. But not all of it was helpful.
This is a catastrophe for Madagascar. This is an Asian fish. This is not a Malagasy fish. And in the 70s, North Korea made a gift to the people of Madagascar as being the answer to all their problems. It'll grow in the rice fields,
right.
So you grow your rice, you get a crop of fish,
right.
And these guys will eat the mosquito larvae. So your malaria will disappear, you'll have fish for breakfast, dinner and tea along with your rice.
Right.
Of course, nothing like that happened. These were introduced all around Madagascar, and basically these are just pure killers. And everywhere they went, all the native fish just disappeared.
And what's the solution then? How do you get them from...
Solution? The only solution would be to basically wipe out all of the fish fauna and start again, and restock.
God.
Once you've got exotic animals and plants in your ecosystem, it's a long, long haul to get rid of them again.
If the fishing goes and more marshland is cleared for rice, then one of the island's smallest residents, the gentle reed lemur, may vanish for good.
Mud.
Yeah. And they push.
It's the dry season, the water level's very low, and it's going to be difficult to get far enough into the reeds to see the lemurs. It doesn't help that our canoe is somewhat overloaded, and it's getting late in the day.
So every time when you count lemurs, at 5 o'clock you are already in the marsh, leaving very early at 4.
So we've left it a bit late.
Well, it's okay.
But it's hard going, and in the end, we decide to abandon the canoes and try to walk through the marshes on foot.
Oh, I see. It's like that, is it?
After half an hour's trekking, we spot a lone and terrified gentle reed lemur.
Oh, yeah. Hello, little fella. Just tiny little thing, about this big. Sweet and furry. And fierce, apparently. Did I hear you say that they'd fight for territory?
They can fight to defend their territory. They fight strongly. In terms of body mass, males are usually slightly bigger than the females, but females are dominant, exactly like in human society. The offspring, when they reach the age of maturity, let's say 3 years, they have to leave their natal group. Why is that? Because they do avoid incest.
Right.
Father and daughter, they do not mate. So the problem is, because the marsh is getting destroyed and getting smaller and smaller, and these species only exist in this marsh. Once they disappear from this place, they disappear forever.
The fragmentation of the lemur's habitat isn't only confined to the reed beds of Lac Alhotra. All over Madagascar, the last lemurs are clinging on to isolated pockets of wilderness. The next lemur I'm going to look for is the jet black Perrier's sifaka, the least studied of all the species, and now confined to a single patch of forest. The size of its habitat has halved in recent years. American primatologist Matthew Banks is in the middle of a long-term study of these critically endangered lemurs.
You have to have lemur eyes, don't you?
Yes.
To know what to look for.
Yeah, with time you start to pick up on it a bit.
And it's not long before Matthew spots some more common sportive lemurs.
The Malagasy name means looks at you.
Right.
Yes.
Lemurs' eyes are so wide set that they have a broader field of vision than most other primates. Matthew thinks he might be able to lead us to a small group of the much shyer Perrier's sifakas deeper in the forest.
You see?
Yeah. Is that an adult?
Yeah.
There are now thought to be only about 250 adult Perrier's sifakas left in the wild.
There's 3 of them. Is that a young one on the right? He's got a baby either ain't clean to her tummy or her back. Yeah, on her back leg. Oh, sweet. His little wispy tail. It's like string. Oh, that's a bit of a Brucey bonus. Are they landlocked here, the Perrier's sifaka?
This area that we're in now is bounded by rivers, and it really isn't all that large, and it's becoming more difficult because the connectivity of habitats is becoming less. The areas are becoming more fragmented, and it is more difficult for the animals to find ways to cross over into other protected areas.
The fragmentation of the lemu's natural habitat, bringing the danger of inbreeding, is clearly the most serious threat to their future survival. One man thinks he has an answer. Rainer Dolch has a highly successful tree planting project. He's trying to establish corridors that link up the fragments of the eastern rainforest that remain.
We have 16 species of lemur in this area, and there are some of these species that are really threatened by extinction. And that's why we try to link all these forest fragments to provide a continuous habitat for these species, including the very endangered ones.
And you're going into these sort of scarred sites that I've seen that have been slashed and burnt and cleared of all the trees.
Exactly.
And a virgin site, and putting a Didi forest in.
Yeah. The project started about 5 years ago, and now we have planted a bit more than 1,000 hectares in this project.
Wow.
So with 1,000 hectares, that makes 1 million trees.
Is there anything you look for when you choose one?
Well, we could probably start with the Mariner, because I think we have a bit of a higher mortality than with other trees. So we'll probably take the biggest one out here. Okay, let's go.
Let's go make a forest.
Like the Durrell Foundation, Rayner recognises that the long-term success of the project relies on winning over the local community.
These are the guys who are running the project day to day on the ground.
Yeah, that's precisely so. There's either the local communities that live in the project area, so they help us doing the planting, at the same time promote the project and get out something for themselves in terms of improved livelihoods.
Tell me when I'm doing something wrong, won't you? I don't want to... Good? Yes. Oh, thanks. There we go, there's our little forest.
Trying to protect and restore the lemure's habitat in collaboration with the local communities is hugely important. But with 9 out of 10 trees having been chopped down, there have to be other solutions. The place where I'm going next may hold the key to the future survival of the lemurs. Surprisingly, it involves animals that came not from these shores, but were born in the USA. Few places on Earth worry conservationists as much as Madagascar, and where wildlife is concerned, nowhere is quite so special. The Evelina Zoological Park is on the east coast of the island. Here, they've carried out the first and only trial of its kind, releasing captive-bred black and white ruffed lemurs born thousands of miles from here into the wild. Bernard Richardson has been working at Evelina for nearly 20 years.
Hello, fella. Oh, no, he's been released. He's got a collar.
Each individual have a collar here to mark which individual is...
For studying purposes.
Yeah.
It's such curious animals, aren't they? They always want to see what you're up to, don't they? You keep their eye on you.
At Evelina, they run a refuge for animals which have been confiscated from hunters or trappers trying to sell them to tourists. They're also part of a captive breeding program run in cooperation with other zoos around the world.
And we have 3 individuals with this and 2 babies this year.
Have you?
Yeah. I want to show you the babies.
Yes.
Look, the baby is just up of
How old is that baby?
2 months.
2 months. And is that little growler that's warning us? Is it?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's a good dad.
He's a good dad.
Yeah. What's that? Is that just everyone staying in touch, or is it an alarm?
Uh-huh.
That's an alarm?
Yeah.
Because of us?
Yeah.
In 1997, 5 black and white ruffed lemurs born in captivity in the US were flown from North Carolina to Madagascar. We now want to see if we can track down any of the original American lemurs that were released into the neighbouring wildlife reserve of Potampana. Although the reserve is only 20 miles away, it takes an interesting 6 hours to get there.
This is the end of the road. We now have to get a bamboo raft across the river. We're going to ride this guy.
You know how to...
No.
No, just
stand up.
This and stand up, or you can sit down, or...
I'll get a wet arse if I sit down. I'll stand up. It's fine.
On the other side of the river, we're supposed to transfer to 2 bush taxis, the only available form of transport, which will take us to the next village, an hour away by road. But there's a hitch.
What's happened is there was supposed to be 2 of these guys turning up, but one of them broke down, so we've got quite a few of us and all the filming equipment to try and squeeze on. This could be the day that this one breaks down too.
You have to tell.
Oh.
Here?
We need a bigger boat. But it works, doesn't it? Look, all of it's squished in, all this gear. We did get it up on the roof. We are going along. It's just how things work here. It's how life is, isn't it? Driving here seems to take a weird preference over pedestrianism. It's like it claims the tarmac. All the vehicles just go as fast as they can and beat their horn at every corner and beat their horn at every pedestrian who very obligingly gets out of the way. It's getting laughed at. Bunch of fat white idiots on the back of a van by the people who see us.
We're met by a dozen porters who seem surprised that I was able to squeeze into the back of the taxi.
They're going, look at the size of it. Hi. How do you do? Hi.
From here on in, we have to go on foot to the camp 2 miles away on top of a steep hill that rises to nearly 2,000 feet above sea level. The captive-bred lemurs from North Carolina faced a perilous journey fording rivers on their way to a life of freedom in Batampana. We're following the same route.
So this is Funtsimabu River. So we crossed this river 7 times.
7 times?
7 times.
With man ever encroaching on their habitat, it's only in the most remote corners of the island that lemurs now survive.
So this is Batampana, which is the biggest mountain here.
Yeah.
And that's why the name of the reserve is Batampana, because it's too high to climb.
Is it too? But we're going to climb it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 3-hour hike is a sharp reminder of just how isolated much of the island's wildlife has become.
This has been the hardest physical thing I think I've ever done. We've come deep down, up. I thought I was quite fit living on a hillside, but this is hundreds of meters, grabbing onto things that are sharp and spiky and tripping and stumbling, but right in the heart of Madagascan rainforest.
Okay, here is the first release place. At this moment, we released 5 individuals.
15 years ago, that promising cargo of black and white ruffed lemurs were released from this spot. Bernard was closely involved in the release. The hope was that the captive-bred lemurs would mate with the wild population, thereby strengthening the gene pool and reducing inbreeding. But even here, in what was thought to be a safe haven, there was a threat to the lemur's survival, albeit a natural one.
The 3 individual was died by the Fusa.
That's sad.
Yeah.
But two carried on?
Yes.
The Fusa is a cat-like nocturnal carnivore. Over half its diet consists of lemur meat.
And can the Fusa climb as high as the lemurs?
Yeah, you know, black and white, when they sleep at night on the branch.
Yeah.
And the Fusa can climb slowly and catch here on this head.
Oh, right.
And immediately the animal died.
2 subsequent releases in 1998 and 2001 proved more successful, and we're now hoping to spot some of those that survived. But it's a further 3 hours, hacking through dense rainforest before we get to the place where they finally settled.
This animal didn't know, but
see.
Fusi is really dangerous, and maybe he's trying to make a contact.
How do you teach them that?
No, it's okay, because wild one can teach, okay, we sleep on the higher tree, but not on the ground, like into the cage or something like that. And no, it's
success.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a big success.
It's a big success.
A decade later, 2 of the 10 original lemurs are still alive, along with 6 of their offspring. This particular lemur, born 10,000 miles away in America, is now fully integrated into the wild, living with 3 others in the heart of the Madagascan rainforest.
And this is the future, isn't it? This is how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You love your lemurs, don't you?
I love lemurs.
I can see it every time you speak about them. I love
Yeah.
you for that. I've always had an ear open for the word Madagascar ever since I was a child. But not until I got here did I realise how little I knew about Madagascar. I thought just because of its proximity to Africa it was an African island, but it's not. It's completely its own thing. Settled 2,000 years ago by people coming from the east, from Indonesia. And as for the crisis, well, yeah, I've seen it. Bits of habitat for the animals is being eroded. But thank God, you know, we've met the people who are making a difference. To begin with, I didn't think there was hope, but I do think there is hope because they're making such a difference here.